Japan has seen its fair share of conflict, civil wars, invasions, bombings. However, there was one battle that stood above the rest. The First Mongolian Invasion of 1274 saw a near devastating loss to the Japanese, which ended up opening their eyes for new forms of military tactics. The Khagan, which translates to Great Khan, of the Yuan dynasty at the time led his armies to Japan for one purpose: conquest. The Mongolian Empire had already seized all of Eastern Asia, and some parts of Northern Asia. From parts of China and modern-day Beijing to South Korea, there was no Asian country that the Mongols didn't have their eyes on to recruit to their massive empire. However, Japan would not bow down to the tyranny of the Mongolian Empire. Leading this great empire was Kublai Khan, the grandson of the great Genghis Khan. With an entire army at his disposal, he led troops to Japan, where they met stiff resistance. The locals would not stand down. They would not give up their island without a fight. Brave samurai warriors stood their ground on Tsushima Island in hopes to push the Mongols back from the inland. This is the narrative backdrop that shrouds Ghost of Tsushima. Sucker Punch is aiming to create an open-world samurai game, something we've never seen before. We play as Jin Sakai, an honorable samurai warrior who fought in the first invasion. But how historically accurate is Ghost of Tsushima? How many historical liberties did Sucker Punch take to create this ambitious new IP? And what changes were made to make the game fun and engaging? With the game just a few weeks away from launch, I figured it'd be a good time to talk about the First Mongolian Invasion and how it compares to the game. I'm Wolf the Ronin, and this is Ghost of Tsushima and the First Mongolian Invasion. So first thing we need to do is I need to clear the air. So this is not the only invasion Japan would suffer from. No, there are two different Mongolian invasion campaigns. The first one being the BUNEI campaign of 1274, or also called the Battle of BUNEI. BUNEI, I don't know how you say that. I'm just gonna say BUNEI from here on out. The second campaign wouldn't happen for another 7 years due to bad weather conditions. We'll get to that. The second invasion was known as the Battle of Kuwanger. Koan? I don't know. I'm usually good at this. What's going on? But it has also been called the second battle at Hakata Bay. See? I can say that one, damn it! This battle happened in 1281. Ghost of Tsushima, however, only covers the first invasion. After overwhelming the small island with superior forces, the samurai were unable to adapt to vast numbers, weaponry, and military strategy. Although the Mongolian Empire emerged victorious, they ultimately had to retreat due to severe losses. These losses occurred on their approach as they were hit with a massive storm. The Japanese saw this as a divine intervention, and thus called it a kamikaze, which translates to wind god, or wind deity, or wind spirit. Take your pick. Even though the kamikaze dwindled the Mongolian forces, their numbers were still far more superior than the Japanese could ever anticipate. But with their retreat, this gave Japan time to plan for another attack. Some historians have speculated that the BUNEI campaign was never meant for a full-on conquest, but rather a place to set up a base of operations, or a reconnaissance mission. They wanted somewhere closer to station their troops so that they could later invade the entire island of Japan. While Tsushima is still considered a part of Japan, it's a very small island, part of the Japanese archipelago. It's literally the middle ground between South Korea and Japan. And South Korea is where Kublai Khan had a lot of his troops stationed at the time. So it only made sense for his next target to be Japan. And we actually see a lot of that in the gameplay stuff we've seen from Ghost of Tsushima. We see the Mongols setting up camp, we see them setting up bases. And they are taking over the island, and it's up to Jin to take them out and push them back. This could open up for some really cool story moments, because what if Jin fails? We could then maybe see a Ghost of Tsushima sequel set on the actual island of Japan, rather than the small island of Tsushima. There's another theory that the BUNEI campaign was mainly meant as a scare tactic, because you see, before the invasion, Kublai Khan sent out letters after letters after letters to Shogunate Hojo Tokimune, and he was inviting him to join the Mongolian Empire. And I guess Tokimune didn't understand what the letters were asking of him, and so he ignored the letters. And this enraged Kublai Khan. So he sent out his forces to attack the island. And there's a theory that this was a scare tactic to say, hey, this is what I can do. So join me or suffer the same fate. Hey, look, Kublai, I get it. I hate being left on red too, but a full-on invasion? Come on, man! After Kublai Khan sent numerous letters and numerous messages to the shogunate, he sent one last letter, threatening war. Hojo Tokimune saw this as a challenge and felt confident enough in his soldiers and his forces to push the Mongolians back. However, he had not anticipated how far the Mongolian Empire had already stretched. The shogunate's overconfidence is what led to his defeat on the BUNEI campaign. While the shogunate was overconfident, there were some other things that led to the defeat. One of the main things being how the samurai fought. Typically, the samurai would fight one-on-one with an opponent, sort of. When it came to big battles, the samurai would choose their target and take them out and move on to the next target. Now, the Mongols had a completely different way of fighting. They always attacked in groups and attacked numerous targets. Rather than focusing on one target, they would group up and take out one guy and overwhelm them with pure strength. This was something the samurai was not used to and had a hard time adapting. Now, while the samurai are able to attack multiple opponents, it's easy to get overwhelmed with that. Because despite popular belief, the katana is not actually very good for blocking. It's good for a quick, parry, oh, you're coming down? Move that aside. But if you're blocking numerous swords all at the same time, you're gonna tire out really quickly. And I think this is part of what overwhelmed the samurai, is the Mongols were attacking in brute force, non-stop, and it was making the samurai tired. Now, yes, historically, the samurai did not use a katana. They used a yari, or a long spear, while mounted on a horse. But the Mongols had something else up their sleeve. They had gunpowder. And gunpowder was in Japan around 1270, but it was still pretty early, and keep in mind, this invasion happened at 1274, so it's probably safe to say that they weren't too familiar with it. Now, also keep in mind, the Mongols had some control over China, which is where a lot of the gunpowder was produced. So they probably had a lot more innovative ways and creative ways to use the gunpowder as a weapon. I don't think it's safe to say that Japan really utilized any weaponry out of the gunpowder until the Mongols arrived. And we can actually also see this in Ghost of Tsushima, where Jin is taking on, or is becoming, the Ghost, and he's actually using the Mongolian gunpowder against them. Although this is a historical fiction, there are some things that Sucker Punch had to change in order to make it, well, a video game. I mean, a video game's got a video game, right? So let's talk about our protagonist. As stated earlier, we play as Jin Sakai. He's a samurai warrior who fights against the Mongols, and he sacrifices his way in order to fight back. Now, Jin is a fictional character. That should be obvious. There was no record of any samurai warrior called Jin Sakai, or anyone who was acting like a ninja to get rid of the Mongols. With that said, it is possible that there was a ninja by the name of Jin Sakai, because we don't know when the earliest ninjas were, because the earliest documentation we have of ninjas actually dates back to the 15th century. And this is when the ninja became a job and was more of a mercenary job, and where you were trained to become a ninja. Anything before that, it's probably safe to assume that your life was shrouded in the shadows. But it's possible that there was a ninja back then named Jin Sakai, but we have no way of knowing that. But more realistically, it's probably the case that it's just a made-up character for this game. Now, what is possible is we can look at Jin's maybe influences and what influenced his character. So we see Jin as this honorable samurai, and he'll do anything for his lord or anything for his people, because he wants to get the Mongols off his island. So, and that was the case with a lot of the samurai who fought on the first campaign. While researching this, there was only really one name that I came across that was glorified, if you want to call it that. I wouldn't say glorified, but there's only one guy who had his name written in the history books. And his name was Takezake Suinaga. And what I find interesting is this guy fought in both campaigns. He fought in the BUNEI campaign and the Battle of Kuwanger. Suinaga was a samurai retainer to a Lord Muto Kagesuke. Kagesuke? I don't know how to say that. That's a weird name. Now, this is actually kind of a strange comparison because these two have nothing in common. Because Suinaga was actually kind of... He wanted the glory. He wanted his name to be known, but not for the reasons you may think. Suinaga fought on the First Invasion. After they lost, he went to the inland of Japan to warn the lords and the shogunates and everyone on the island of Japan. And he was offered a reward, but he declined it. He simply stated that he wanted his name to be known, so that when he was on the battlefield, his fellow samurai soldiers would have increased morale knowing they were fighting alongside a legend or a hero. And that feels like something Jin would do. From what we can gather so far, now that may change in the final game, but from what we can tell, Jin fights for the people, and he will do anything to save his people. So he could possibly go over to the island of Japan after the game is finished and warn everyone and just say, let them know that I will be fighting them and I fought the Mongols back over on Tsushima. And then you'll have increased morale within the troops. This is very characteristic of Jin. Now, this is all hypothetical, of course. Anything can happen. I'm not with Sucker Punch. Only they have control of what actually happens. But you know what's not hypothetical? The Kagen. So if you've watched any Ghost of Tsushima content, you know that the Khan is the villain of this game. Now, you wouldn't be faulted to thinking we are fighting Kublai Khan. But truth is, we're not. See, we're going up against a fictional antagonist, and his name is Khotun Khan. We see Khotun Khan all the way back to the Paris Games Week reveal back in 2017. But we don't hear his name until the story trailer. Actually, it might have been the Ghost trailer. I think it was the Ghost trailer. And that's where Jin is walking towards a gate and he yells out, Khotun Khan! That. When I first figured out that Kublai Khan wasn't the bad guy and they were replacing him with a fictional character like Khotun Khan, it got me thinking, what purpose does it serve to remove Kublai Khan as the villain? I have a couple of thoughts about what they're actually doing. So the easy answer is Sucker Punch is probably just avoiding any heat and they don't want to throw a part of Mongolian history into the game and villainizing it. That's probably the actual case. But I have a deeper thought, and this one is actually quite interesting. So, what if, in this world, the ambassador for the Mongolian Empire is just known as the Kagen? Like I stated earlier, in history, Kagen translates to Great Khan. But what if, in this world, the Kagen passes that title on as an ambassador to other countries? Because in our history, there was an ambassador that went from China to Japan to deliver the letters. His name was Zhao Liangbi. I have absolutely no idea if I said that right. It was Liangbi's job to deliver the letters from Kublai Khan to the shogunate. And, well, we all know how that went. He witnessed all the invasions, and he was a Chinese ambassador, and he was on the island of Japan. Now, the big thing that gives this away is an ambassador's job is to know the language that they are going in order to, well, be an ambassador for. So he was the Chinese ambassador. He learned Japanese and Japanese culture in order to talk and communicate with the Japanese. And if you listen to the original trailer, you hear Khotun say that he has learned their culture and learned their language. So it makes me think if Kublai Khan exists in this world, he simply sent Khotun to the islands of Japan in order to talk with them and be diplomatic. But then we, the samurai, are fighting back and trying to get them off the island. I know this is all speculation, and I have really no big evidence that proves this, but that's the beauty of historical fiction. Ghost of Tsushima has a lot going for it, Making a game around history is very tricky, because not only do you have to make it historically accurate, but you also need to make sure it's being fun and entertaining. Certain liberties have to be made to make it historically accurate. Sucker Punch seems to be on the right track, and I cannot wait to jump into this amazing world that they've made. July 17th couldn't come any sooner, and like all of you, I can't wait to play it. But I want to hear what you guys are thinking. Let's have a discussion. What are we thinking about Ghost of Tsushima? Do we like the game? Do we think it's being represented historically and accurately? Do we think they're taking too much fiction to it? If you guys like the video, make sure you like it. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ronin Army. Helps me out a lot. But until the next video, thank you guys for watching, and I'll check you guys next time. Game on!